We are next going to induct I Feel So Good, the life and times of Big Bill Broonzy. And we would like to invite Bruce Glauer to the stage to do that. Please watch the
I got a letter, it come to me by mail. My baby said she's coming home, and I hope that she don't fail. You know, I feel so good.
Since its publication in 2011, I Feel So Good, The Life and Times of Big Bill Broonzy has earned a place as one of the most definitive blues biographies. To get the full story on Big Bill, journalist and blues historian Bob Riesman followed a trail from Chicago to Holland to a church in Arkansas and to a meeting with Broonzy's grandnieces. Riesman reveals how Broonzy reinvented himself in name, birthdate, and birthplace, along with many other details of his life. The book explores Broonzy's career as a premier blues artist, influence, mentor, and spokesman in the U.S. and abroad.
Stick around, but if you's blind, oh brother, get back, get back, get back.
It's my great pleasure to introduce the author of this wonderful book. You know, I'd always thought of Big Bill as kind of a folk blues artist, you know, picking on his acoustic guitar, singing for an audience of white folkies in the 40s and 50s. I knew he'd been popular with black audiences in the 20s and 30s, but I had no idea of the impact he had as one of the most widely recorded and most imitated artists of that era. In the blues world, Big Bill Broonzy was a star before any white people ever heard of him. Bob Riesman did an extraordinary job, spending 10 years researching the life of Big Bill and the different incarnations of his long career. Country blues fiddler, preacher, Chicago blues guitar player, singer and songwriter, and then his immersion in the budding folk music scene and the absolutely vital role that Bill took as the first blues ambassador to Europe and the United Kingdom. In each phase of Bill's life, Bob makes clear his vital role in the blues, including writing over 200 songs, not only for himself, but for his friends like Washboard Sam and Jazz Gillum and many others. And his role as an archetypal and much imitated guitar player, and his key position as one of the very first blues artists to take his music outside the blues community, the black community, and inspire generations of younger blues and rock musicians around the world, including the first generation of British blues singers and players. Almost all of them idolized Big Bill. I Feel So Good is not only a great piece of research, it's a great read. And I know because being asked to do this, I went back and reread the book and had a wonderful time. Bob tells the story in a clear conversational way. It's not academic. The story is well laid out. It's fun. Like all the best music biographies, reading I Feel So Good inspires the reader to listen to the artist's music. After reading it, I plunged into listening to Big Bill's recording career, and it was an exciting voyage of discovery, made all the more exciting after discovering so much about him through Bob's book. So it is now my pleasure to induct I Feel So Good, The Life and Times of Big Bill Broonzy by Bob Riesman into the Blues Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2018, and to invite the author to come in and speak. The author and my very dear friend. Okay, now you get to tell Big Bill.
Thank you, Bruce, for your very kind words. We've been friends for nearly 20 years, and I'm more grateful than I can say for all your wise counsel and encouragement, and most important, your friendship. Next, there's a set of people and institutions that I want to thank, and I'll start by expressing my heartfelt thanks to the Blues Foundation for selecting my book for induction into the Blues Hall of Fame. To Big Bill Broonzy's family members, Joanne Jackson, Rosie Tolbert, Sebastian Weston, and Michael Van Isveld, thank you for your extraordinary generosity in sharing your family history, your family stories, your memories, your documents, and your photographs. I will always be grateful to each of you for all you did to make it possible for me to write the book. I'd like to thank a few people who were particularly helpful, especially as the book was first starting to take shape. Thank you to my literary mentors, Peter Guralnick and Ronald D. Cohen, for being willing to share their guidance on researching and writing a biography, especially of a man who was exemplary in many respects, flawed in others, and capable of exquisitely contradictory behavior. Thank you to the University of Chicago Press for taking a chance on me as a first-time author and for publishing such a handsomely presented volume. I want to thank my family, starting with my mother, Marcia Riesman, who's holding her own in Providence, Rhode Island at age 93, and who's been in my corner every step of the way. I'm very grateful to her and to my mother-in-law, Marge Kaplan, for serving as the sales representatives for the book, my mother in New England and Marge in Minnesota. I'm delighted that my 3 children are here today, Abraham Riesman, Claire Riesman, and Julia Riesman, along with my sister, Jean Riesman, as well as a set of family members and friends who have traveled a long way to arrive here. The roster of attendees includes my brother-in-law, Ross Kaplan, along with my niece, Johanna Kaplan, and my sister-in-law, Leah Kaplan, as well as our dear friends, Michael and Deborah Gordon. Among those who were not able to make the trip to Memphis, but who have provided much appreciated moral support, are my father-in-law, Harvey Kaplan, my sister-in-law, Helen Kaplan, and my brother-in-law, John Smolin, as well as my uncle, Gene Riesman. I really wish that my father, Robert A. Riesman Sr., had lived long enough to see my book published. And to my wife, Rachel Kaplan, honey, I literally could not have written the book without you. Thank you. Now, if you'll permit me, I'd like to tell you about a few enduring contributions to the blues world and blues history that were made by the subject of my book. Born in 1903 near Lake Dick, Arkansas, guitarist and singer Big Bill Broonzy was a towering figure in the history of the blues. He was a prolific and versatile songwriter who wrote and recorded hundreds of songs over the course of his 30-year career as a professional musician. Bill was a pioneering trailblazer in bringing the blues to an international audience. When he traveled through Europe for months at a time in the 1950s, Bill served as a remarkably effective ambassador of the blues, as he spoke enthusiastically to overseas audiences about the talented blues musicians who would soon follow in his footsteps, often endorsing them by name. He set the stage for the many and still ongoing decades of successful overseas tours by blues men and blues women. Bill was also a creative artist who hand-wrote his autobiography, Big Bill Blues, which was published in both Europe and the US. In his songs and his writings, he spoke out directly and vigorously against racial injustice. Bill's records and appearances on British television in the 1950s introduced the blues to a generation of British teenagers, including Pete Townsend, Ray Davis, Keith Richards, and Eric Clapton, who described his first glimpse of Big Bill performing as, quote, like I was looking into heaven. Beyond Bill's musical and literary accomplishments, an enduring element of his legacy is the example he set by providing guidance to younger musicians. Just as better established artists had helped him when he first came to Chicago in the 1920s, Bill used his stature to help newly arrived blues artists to get their start in the city's intensely competitive blues scene. One of those musicians was Muddy Waters, who never forgot the crucial initial assistance that Bill provided to him soon after he arrived in Chicago from Mississippi. I'll leave the last word to Muddy Waters, who served as the lead pallbearer at Bill's funeral in 1958, to compress his high regard of his mentor into succinct terms. Mostly, said Muddy Waters in describing Big Bill Broonzy, I try to be like him. Thank you.